Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome you and thank you for joining us today. This event is part of our Freelance Academy series, and today we are streaming live from Sofia, Bulgaria. We are in this amazing co-working space and premium office called Tract 127, and I'm here with our valuable community member, Cordt Zermin. Hello.
Hi, really happy to be here.
Yeah, happy to meet you in person, finally. In the next approximately 1 hour, we will talk about what it really means to be location independent and how you can work on the go, live on the go, and connect on the go. But before we start digging, my name is Gary, and I'm an event manager at 9 a.m. and Code Control. And today I will be interviewing our special guest here in Sofia. For those of you who are not familiar, 9 a.m. is a platform for freelancers where we are aiming to make your lives easier. You can find exciting projects and manage all your project requests in one place and keep your profile up to date very easy. If you want to learn more about 9 a.m., you can check out 9am.works. I'm really excited about this topic today and the event, and want you guys to have as much as you can from this 1 hour with Cordt and me. That's why please ask your questions in the Q&A section below or in the chat below. And after our talk, we can answer them. I mean, Cordt will answer them.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully we have time for all of them. So happy to have you here. Cordt Zermin. He's a technical product manager from Germany who has recently joined our freelance community. Last year, Cordt and his wife took 6 months break traveling across Central Asia and Southern Africa before starting on their new challenge, which is living and working location independent. Cordt, tell us more about you and how did you become location independent?
Yes, as I said, thanks a lot for having me here today. I think you already gave like the key points. I'm a technical product manager. I really love my job. I did work in a startup for 6 years in Munich, and then I really needed a break after that time. And that break was a world trip that I did with my wife for 6 months. And we were kind of flexible regarding how long we do it. But then at some point we said, now we really want to get back into working. And this is what we do since February. So I'm working as a freelancer and I really enjoy it so far.
That's very good. While you're traveling, what are actually the advantages and disadvantages of this type of life?
I think...
Is it similar to being a digital nomad? What's the difference?
Yeah, I think there's probably two things in there. So maybe first of all, this term, like location independent, and also this term digital nomad. I think when you say digital nomad, people usually have some kind of maybe image, maybe stereotype in their head what that means. So I have a laptop. I work from different locations where I move to. So I think it would be perfectly fine to call me a digital nomad. Nonetheless, I do think that people usually associate that with people who sit under a palm tree, sipping a pina colada and doing some work. So I'm not blaming them. That sounds perfectly fine. It wouldn't be for me. I need a little bit of a different, let's say, surrounding to do proper work. So, and also this digital nomad thing or phenomenon, I think existed way before the pandemic. So it's not something that only came up then. And location independence for me is more something where I say I still do exactly the job that I like, that I love to do. And I'm very fortunate that I can do this fully remotely. And the only difference to many other people is that I don't have like an apartment at one place where I always stay, and I don't have this one workplace where I always stay. But every other month I will be at some different place probably and just work from there. And this is how I would define this maybe.
What was your last destination? Actually,
the last one was Cantabria. So it's a small, I'm not sure whether it's called province or state in Spain, in northern Spain. Really wasn't on our radar. We just kind of ran into it, let me put it that way. And it was completely rural. So there were like cows and dogs who would greet you when you could go out for a run in the morning, but it was really beautiful and really enjoyed it.
Strong Wi-Fi though.
That is actually, I mean, it sounds a little bit obvious, but this is this is so important, since we are not often working from co-working spaces, but we really enjoy working from the apartments and the places that we pick. Like, we put a lot of effort, and I say we, but it totally means my wife, because she does that. So we put a lot of effort into figuring out, is this setup that we have where they are really suited for the job that we are doing? Because after all, like, the quality of the work that we do is obviously, we have the same level that we expect from it. So the Wi-Fi has to be perfect, and we make sure of that before, definitely.
Yeah, it's really important.
Yeah.
And why do you think this is the new model of life, living location independently?
I think it changed, especially during the pandemic, because this really changed the view of things as it is so often with, let's say, very big events in history, that people think differently because they are forced into it. So in the case of the pandemic, one of those side effects was certainly people were not asked or offered, but they were forced to work from home, and they had to make do with that and see how that works. And maybe not so much the people, but more the companies had to make it work and see how that works. And I think the result was that many of them figured, well, that didn't go as bad as we expected. So it's really a possibility. Now, that being said, I think the majority of people still have some kind of lifestyle or life model where they have, like, at some point a house which they maybe buy, or an apartment where they stay. Sometimes they will have a place to which they commute to work. And like, this place is where you work, this place is where you live, and this is your life. And it has been like this for, I think, the most part of the history, at least that you can remember as one person. So that seems kind of the normal thing. And then now I do exactly the same, just with the difference that I don't have this house and office part. It's just moving all the time. And I really hope that people will start embracing this just as an option. I'm not saying this is for everyone. I can totally understand this, but just seeing it as an option that you can do. And I mean, there's no harm in trying that, at least for a couple of months. And then if you decide it's not for you, then you just go back.
Yeah, I was wondering, probably this is not a life that everyone could live. That's why what do you think, what kind of personality fits the best actually to living independently?
Yeah, that's a good question. I could imagine there are a lot of personalities who would fit in there in different ways. So as I said before, for example, my wife and I, we prefer to work mostly from this apartment, at least where we live for a given month. At least that works for us well right now. And there are other people who really prefer to stay in, like, co-living or co-working spaces. Like, depends a little bit on how sociable you are, maybe.
Exactly, yeah.
What is one thing that is extremely important, even as a freelancer, I think I, as a freelancer, are often paid by the hour. This is like my most normal contract, let's put it that way. But I'm usually measured, and this is a good thing, in my outputs and in my outcomes. Like, there is no point for anyone to sit, like, behind me and track with a stopwatch and track my time. Like, this doesn't help anyone. But at the end of the day, they will say, hey, you said you were going to deliver this by then. So where is it? And what's the quality of it? And you must be driven, or you must define your work that way. Otherwise, it's, from my perspective at least, really difficult to do this, because it absolutely doesn't matter like, actually, how much you work or when you work. It really matters what you in the end produce as value and deliver. Yes. Yeah. So I think this is one very important trait, just from my perspective.
Do you have, like, minimum days of stay in one place when you travel? Do you say, like, oh, let's stay at least 4 days, so we just set up everything, calm down, get us comfortably to, like this about this?
When we used to travel, like a couple of maybe years ago, we would often have, like, stays that were quite short, like just a couple of days, to squeeze in as much as possible and see as much as possible. We changed this quite a bit, and now that we are actually working again, we said like more or less 1 month is really the time window that is reasonable for us. It might be different for other people, but this is reasonable for us. The reasons for this are, of course, even if you are always on the go, you want to a little bit feel like a little bit feel home and feel comfortable, and also get to know the area, get to know the places, maybe even get to know the people there. So this is why we don't want to travel faster than that. And of course, even if you are very routine in doing so, it's still a hassle to travel from A to B. One funny thing is that we calculated that at some point during our world trip, we amassed 1,500 euros of fees in PCR tests.
Oh my God.
Which is like, when you do the math afterwards, you're like, wow, that was freaking expensive.
Yeah.
We didn't realize at that point. Obviously, you are like, okay, we're going there, they're required, so we're just going to get this test. And then afterwards, you're like, oh my God, that was quite some money.
Yeah.
But yeah, so.
How many countries have you visited during your like 6-month trip?
Oh my God.
Or you don't count?
My wife counts very precisely. I don't.
She's here today. We could ask her.
Looks like 8. Okay. It
8?
seems to be 8 countries.
Okay.
I knew when I go one by one, it will be 8. Yeah, and that was over the course of 6 months. And that there, of course, we traveled a little bit faster because we don't have to work, so we can spend all the time on the road, and that worked very well.
Great. How do you manage to stay connected with your friends and family while you're in different time zones?
Maybe just to begin with, I studied in 3 different cities, and my wife even studied in 3 different countries. So we are already, the default already was that our friends and our family are like everywhere, but not all of them, at least at the place where we are. Like, we lived in Munich, my wife's parents in Zurich, my parents in Essen in Germany. So it was already very like on different places of this planet anyway. And how we do it is we, whenever we go to some place or near to some place, we really make sure to on time reach out to them and say, hey guys, we're around, how about we do something together? So what this ends up to be is like whenever we are, for example, close to home, like our schedule is packed with seeing people. Like, for example, right now, we are like really almost every day we have one dinner or one party or one, I don't know, going to some bars together. So it is really, and then in Cantabria, it was 1 month, just the 2 of us and a couple of cows maybe, but like really no one
Very
else.
Romantic.
Yes. So this is one thing. And another thing we did, I think a lot of people did during the pandemic as well, is like something like a Zoom dinner, like a remote dinner.
Oh, yeah.
And I have to say, it's not that bad after all. Of course, it's not the real thing, but still, like you have your friends sitting there, just enjoying some dinner, telling some stories. It works pretty well. So nothing wrong about that.
Great. So is it hard to work with clients and employees and business partners when you're in different time zones, and how do you manage that?
I think it can be very hard if you don't talk to them about it before. So I would just say it is extremely important. It's really a crucial requirement before you go into any project with any customer to be 100% transparent about your availabilities. I mean, you don't have to give them your travel itinerary, like it's not like that, but if you are only available until 1 p.m. their time, then you have to say, okay, I can work 8 hours a day for you, but only 5 of them I will be available for any calls. And this is like, if you schedule anything after that, I will have to decline it by default unless really something really, really, really important is happening. And if you are that transparent about it, they will see whether this is possible in their setup. And I perfectly understand that this is not possible in every setup, but if it's possible for them, they're perfectly fine. And then there is really no issue. Actually, I do think it has a really big upside. I cannot really talk from first-hand experience because I never worked in a big corporate, but I do know that many of them have this kind of disease that their schedules are scattered with end-to-end meetings and really don't allow for good focus work where you actually get something done. And if you only have half of your schedule available for meetings, then this automatically means that the other half is free for focus work, where nobody's going to bother you, not even on Slack, which should be turned off anyway, but it doesn't happen too often. And then you can really get something done. So I think that that is actually a good thing, and I don't see any problem with that, as long as you're transparent.
What's something you didn't expect when you made the decision of starting living this way?
It's a good question. I was not 100% sure whether we are already at the point where this is more or less normal or perfectly acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
And while there are still some people who find it a little weird, or at least let's say weird, most of the companies, most of the people I have talked to, and of course I'm a little bit in my bubble, but I have talked to, for them this is not surprising whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
The only question is like, where are you right now? And like really interested, not judging or anything. So I was surprised by that, because I thought it might be tough to attract customers and work with people when I have this kind of lifestyle, but it actually turned out to work very well, at least until now.
Very good. And is it more expensive to, I mean, how do you decide where to go? Do you like have a specific budget, or how do you manage the costs of living this way?
I would say we do, one thing we do is, of course, we have a very close eye on our costs and expenses. It's like really, it's a very sophisticated Excel model, but
you can share with us the formulas.
Yes. So, and I do actually think that that makes sense, because it is much less predictable than another lifestyle, where you usually are very aware of the recurring costs that you have to expect, so you know more or less what you will pay. So what we do is we try to adjust our budget a little bit to the projects that we get in, knowing that of course there's some lead time, and it's this kind of a lagging indicator, so it doesn't 100% fit, but more or less, like we know what we can spend. It's basically the thing. And then, is it more expensive? The way we do it, I would say a little more expensive, yes. But I also think would be possible to do quite a bit cheaper. So, of course, especially since we have been traveling only in Europe for the last months, we are more on the expensive side.
Yeah.
We will go like towards Asia in the upcoming months, and that, of course, then will be a little bit different again.
When you were in Central Asia, did you, because I haven't been there in this part of the world, did you need to withdraw cash, or they were having like the digital cards and everything? How was that working there?
It is.
I mean, because I just imagine mountains and donkeys.
It is sometimes pretty hilarious. I was surprised it worked extraordinarily well. In most of the places we have been, it was perfectly fine to pay with credit card. In some places, especially if you go out of the big cities, you definitely should carry some cash with you to pay everything. And then the most hilarious thing basically was Uzbekistan, because in Uzbekistan, due to some, let's say, political difficulties, they have superinflation, hyperinflation. So we went to a very small, not village, but very small town in the desert, where you take a train for 14 hours and 14, yes, but you can sleep, so it's okay.
Yeah.
It's a sleep cabin. And then, so everyone told us like the ATMs there often don't work. So take all the cash you need, otherwise you really have a problem. So, okay, we go to the ATM in Tashkent and get the cash. And now, since there's hyperinflation and we ask for something like 400 euros, like you needed a bag. Like, don't even start with your wallet. Like, you can stuff the money in there. Like,
so where
and
did
then
you
have
put them all?
like this bag of money with which you walk around. And we made actually, I think we made a video of that. It's so hilarious. You sit there with all this money. But other than that, it worked surprisingly well. So we didn't run into any problems or issues.
So you also manage your Instagram and TikTok account, right? Or maybe your wife more than you.
It is, so we had to find our way, but
Okay.
how it works right now is I take the pictures. I probably have this from my father, who is a photographer, always has been and still is as a retired person.
Very nice.
And so I do the pictures and do the Instagram because we usually put the pictures there. My wife does all the TikTok because she loves doing those videos. So this is what we do, but it's more like a hobby. Like we never considered being like travel bloggers or anything, although this is, yes, although this
Location
is,
independent influencers.
we could do that, but I think it's not really for us. Like we really like our jobs and this other thing. I think sometimes influencers go to great lengths for
Yeah.
reach and everything like that. This is not really our thing.
Yeah, amazing. So what is your advice for people who want to be location independent?
One thing, like what we did is we really did it 100%. So when we decided that we do this, we sold everything we have. We got rid of our apartment. There was absolutely nothing left afterwards, except for one box that we put in a basement. This really, other than that, we have 2 trolleys and 2 backpacks, and this is how we go around.
So travel light.
Yes, I'm pushing for this travel light.
Yeah.
I cannot stand additional
I know.
notes and everything. And I'm not sure whether this is such a smart idea after all, because as I said in the beginning, I don't think this is for everyone, but it is easy to try, I think. Like if you just for once say, this time I don't make vacation just for the sake of vacation, but I will take 2 or 3 months where I actually work. Depends, of course, whether this is possible with your current company, with your current job, or maybe you want to change your job anyway. So maybe do a little test for a couple of months whether this is for you and get a feeling for it, because before you 100% commit to it. Because after all, like getting from this point where we had an apartment and everything was fixed and set up to getting to this place, it took a lot of work and effort to do this. I know some people will disagree because there are easier ways, but just the one that works for us.
Would you suggest, if, for example, if one would just decide start traveling and of course working while traveling, would you suggest maybe going to a co-living space firstly and then see how it goes, or if it's a solo person?
Oh yeah, I could totally imagine. Again, I think this really comes down to what matters to you and what is important. We always thought that we are the people who like to have a beautiful apartment where we work and live and everything with a nice view and yeah, what have you. But we were really thinking the next time we will be in Europe, we want to try co-living. We already saw some very beautiful places in France and Spain, I think, which really tick a lot of boxes and it really looked super cool. So we absolutely wanted to try that as well. I think there's nothing wrong. Just try one thing, try the other thing, see what works better for you, or maybe a mixture. Like usually I'm a very introvert person, so I'm not so the meet and mingle guy, but I still want to give it a shot. Maybe it works better if I get to know people over a longer period of time.
Could be nice, maybe. Can you share some travel hacks with us?
Hacks, oh my God. Travel hack. Travel light is a
travel
hack for
is
sure.
Number one.
Yes, definitely. Like all these bags are really driving me nuts, but I think it helps if you have a little less luggage.
So you travel with the big backpack, or
no,
just
one backpack and one trolley. So I'm not the only backpack guy. That's not my kind of thing. A few things I do have, and those I like to carry around. Other travel hacks. I'm not sure, like I'm in a very good position because, as I said, my wife is planning most of the things regarding the travel and the trips. So all the logistics. So usually when I come to a place, everything just works. Like, you just end up there and it just works. Like you have the place, you know where to eat and you know what to do. So it's, I think it's worth, if you like that, it's really worth putting a lot of research into it, because I think especially the places in Central Asia, this is not what you find in your average travel itinerary, I would say. And it was definitely one of the most stunning and most amazing places we have been. And also it was absolutely not on my radar. We just found out about it, then we researched it a bit, and then we saw what it looks like, and we're like, okay, we absolutely got to go there, and it was 100% worth it.
Which countries have you visited?
In Central Asia, it was first Kazakhstan, then we went over the land border to Kyrgyzstan, and then from Kyrgyzstan to Uzbekistan. So those 3 countries. And surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, but if you don't know anything about them, it is surprising that all 3 of them are completely different, at least from my perspective. So I was very surprised to find 3 completely 100% different places that probably, if you don't know anything about them in your mind, all look and work the same way.
And also they have the same ends.
Yeah,
All
stands.
So there are some questions here. Would you stop traveling because of some desired business project?
It's an interesting question. We discuss a lot about, right now we are freelancers, we discuss a lot about starting our own business as well, but we tend to have a hard time find the right business idea. But if there's something where we are absolutely convinced that this is something we want to do, and if it requires us to go to some place and stay there for a longer period, like I think you could definitely start with a business visa and then see whether you need to extend this. But if it takes this, I would absolutely do this. So if it fits, then yes, definitely.
Did you meet other location independent traveling couples or people that you shared some experience with?
Not at all, really.
Not at all.
No. Like in Kazakhstan, there were 0 people from outside Kazakhstan that we met. Like really, it was 0. Like we met a lot of people from Kazakhstan who were absolutely amazed to see us there, but it was also not easy to get a visa. And then, as I said before, the last months that we did were always like one place where we stay, and then there's really no other people who it's not digital nomad places.
Exactly,
it's like just
this is not the most
country house where
it's not Bali.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we haven't been to those places, so maybe Lisbon. Actually, Lisbon obviously is a hot spot. There we could have run into some people, but somehow we missed that as well.
Do you know someone who lives like that with the children?
We follow some people on Instagram who I think do that or something like that. I'm not sure whether they fully combine work and travel or are just doing something like a sabbatical. But I think if you spend some time on Instagram or TikTok, you will definitely find accounts who will really share exactly about that. How do you do something like this, having children? And I actually also think that is perfectly possible, of course, with varying degrees of difficulty. Maybe if they are toddlers, it is just a little bit of add-on administrative work. But if they have to go to school, then you obviously need to come up with solutions that work for the children, and it makes sense.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit harder than just traveling with your couple. Yeah. Do you only travel to visa-exempt countries to make this easier for you?
No. Like I wouldn't say we don't care, but if we want to go to some place, we will do what is necessary to do that. So as I said, for example, Kazakhstan during the pandemic had a visa requirement, and that was not even obviously visible. Like it looked like it was no one could go there. Maybe that was the reason why we didn't meet anyone else. So we just went to the embassy in Munich and were like, hey, we want a visa, and they were like, cool, give us 100 euro and here's your visa. So it kind of just worked. So but we would totally do that if we want to see some place. We will do this. Yes.
We will share your favorite travel story.
Favorite
could be funny,
story.
Could be dangerous, could be both.
Yeah, so the craziest thing that happened to us definitely happened in I think that was Kyrgyzstan. So in Kyrgyzstan there are some places which are just absolutely marvelous, and you have to go there, but they are in the border region to I think China and probably Kazakhstan. And since these borders are not 100% safe and there's some things happening, you always have to pass the military checkpoints. And so you have to bring a permit, and then they don't speak a single word of English. So you have Google Translate with Russian download because they can understand that. And then you try to negotiate the terms of getting in there, which we did, which we managed. And then when we got out again, we were stopped at this little village where the military people live, and someone with a gun was just stopping us. And, you know, like we didn't understand a single word. He was like drawing on the ground and was like yelling at us. And I just understood, I think it's a Женщина, like women. I don't know the Russian word exactly. Yeah, so I was like, what the hell? And at some point it occurred to me that what he wanted was to have 2 women from the village that we take with our car to the next village outside of that area. This is what he wanted to tell me. And, you know, if there's a person with a gun, there's like, you don't have that many arguments. Not that he pointed it anywhere, but you are still like, yeah, okay, like, yes, we can do this. And so, yeah, we took them. And then I saw we can go, but then he was like pointing at the trunk, and then I was opening the trunk, and then there came milk and I don't know, blankets. And I was like, what the hell is going on here? And then our car was full. And we started driving, and you know, the thing that really made me uncomfortable is like, actually I have no problem whatsoever to take people anywhere, because also this is like a normal thing to do in Kyrgyzstan. But like, first of all, I didn't understand. That made it really difficult. And then I have to bring 2 people I don't know and some stuff in my trunk that I don't know through the actual military checkpoint, which is also about drug smuggling. And you know what they do to people if they smuggle drugs in those countries. So that was a little bit borderline. But then afterwards we were, it was all good. We brought them to the village where they wanted to go, and they were super nice. And yeah, so that was an experience.
Wow. So are there any countries that you dream of going for?
Yes, I think we do. What are those countries? I think we definitely want to go to Indonesia, and it's called Raja Ampat. So these are some islands definitely not suitable for working, I would say. So it's really a travel thing. They are, I think, in the far east of the country, I would say, some small islands, and they are meant to be absolutely beautiful and quite remote, so not easy to get there. But this is one place we definitely want to go.
What was the best country so far that you have been to, with the best like Wi-Fi connection, safety, everything that you need to you just live your life?
I think from a work perspective, I cannot talk about many countries, but the Azores, so Portugal, was excellent, absolutely excellent. Like, you would think that these islands so far in the Atlantic Ocean maybe don't have a strong signal, but then you realize that there are some maps in the internet, and you realize that all of those islands have like just a fiber cable in the ocean, so they have like 200 Mbit, so it's not a problem at all. And they are just beautiful all year long. They are so diverse. There's so many things you can do. So we were 1 month on São Miguel, 1 month on Ilha do Pico, and it was just an amazing time and perfect to work, absolutely safe. So I would really recommend going there at some point. Yeah.
Did you try co-living there, or where actually?
No, not at all. Like on these islands, we were really like we looked up an apartment in advance, and then we stayed there all the time. And on São Miguel, you can really do something every single day. On Pico, it's a little bit more difficult, but you can, like on São Miguel, you can go surfing, you can go in the hot springs. They have a whole lot of them because it's a volcanic island. Tons of hikes, and there's so much to do. So that was really cool.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of co-living spaces in Portugal, actually.
Yeah, in Portugal itself, for sure.
But not on these islands, maybe. Okay. Was there a time when you wanted to give up and go back to your home country?
No. I mean, I'm not doing it for that long. So we started traveling the world last year, July, and we are working since February this year. Right now, I'm like, give me more. Where do we go next? Like, it had the exact opposite effect. And I'm 100% happy with the decision that we made. Yeah.
Did you travel before you, like a lot before you decided to fully start living location independent?
we used to regularly travel in a similar fashion, like really research well, great places to go. Like we were in 2014, for example, we were in Burma when it was just one of the first years where you could actually travel there. So we always did these kind of things. But then when I was working at the startup, that was really a long stretch of focus on work, because it's like how startups are. You need to put in a lot to make them work oftentimes. And so during that period, we didn't do that much travel, more like 2 weeks of Greece or something like that. And so this world travel was really like, now we're going to resume it and we're going to do it all.
Fully.
Yes.
Very nice. So a question about the taxes. What exactly is the question? Can you...
Maybe it's still coming.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you pay your taxes while you're traveling?
Like this is, I think this topic in itself is something you could talk about for an hour. And I actually also do think that it really, like, I'm not saying you can choose your taxes, but I think it comes down to some degree to personal preference. I think what most people say when they mean digital nomad is people who deregister from their home country and then just never register anywhere else again. And as long as you do not stay longer than the allowed ranges of time in a given country, there's actually nothing wrong about that, which in effect will probably mean that you don't pay any taxes at all. This is a gray area, I would say. Like, there's no reason for any nation state, I assume, to think about this kind of model, because it just, like, this is nothing that concerns them. What concerns them are the people who live in their country, not in all countries. So the concept just doesn't exist. So this is not what we do. We don't think it's the right thing to do. One other thing that you can do is you can, for example, if you're in the European Union, you have the possibility to choose whichever country in this union to work from that you like, as long as you fulfill the requirements that are given by the country. And then you can register there, and you need to see that you stay within the limits of this given country with respect to taxes and all the matters of residence. So this is something that I believe needs to be very well researched and checked and verified also with tax lawyers. And yes, we do pay taxes in the country that we have chosen. Just like normal, as I said, we work exactly like we did before, just that we move a lot.
Okay. Do you have any other stories that you would like to share with us?
Maybe one thing, just because it's not so much related to work, but to travel. I said it before, but Kyrgyzstan is the most underrated country on this planet. Seriously, it's like, we come from Germany and Switzerland, and you can imagine there are some mountains around in Switzerland. So it's not like we haven't seen them before. But if you go to Kyrgyzstan, you think that you have never seen mountains before. It is really, and also there are no people. There are a few nomads and tons of horses and sheep, and then you are by default on 3,000 meters elevation, and then you walk there, and before you are the mountains that are 7,000 meters, and it's just incredible. So, and there are not too many people going there, obviously, because tourism is not that much picking up there yet, and it's not so easy to travel, like compared to other countries. So I would highly recommend to do this if you want to take a few months off. I would not recommend it for working, because infrastructure is not there yet. Especially Uzbekistan was absolutely 100% impossible. They have like restrictions on the internet similar to China.
Wow.
So you cannot even use Twitter there. So it is for vacation, and it's nice, but you won't work there.
Food-wise, how is the Kyrgyzstan food? I know that you like.
Oh yes, I love food, and I would say so. South Africa was amazing, was really amazing, because there's so many options, I would say. And then also something I totally hadn't on my radar was Georgia, the country, like next to Turkey and Russia. this is really like both for wine and food and hospitality, most of all, is really a wonderful country. And that definitely is possible to work from. So we will go there again. It was really nice. It was the first country we went to in our world trip, and it was really like an easy start. So nice people, easy to travel, amazing food, great wine. I think it's has the oldest history of winemaking in Georgia. Didn't know that before.
Me neither.
Yeah, so like if you really want to have a great time, then find some family in Georgia that will host you for one evening for trying their wines from their winery and offer you food. And it's going to be one of the best evenings you can have. Yeah.
There is one more question from the chat. When and how did you realize you wanted to be location independent? When and how?
I think this came really like bit by bit, I would say. It's not like I woke up someday and said, this is it. No, it was not like that. What we did know several years in advance is that we want to go on a world trip. And this was really like a top bucket list item for us. And as you can imagine, there's always, if you have these kind of things, I want to go on a world trip for 6 months. And you maybe have an apartment, then you maybe have a stable job, and then there are so many things, and then maybe you have children, and you just don't do these things, although they were always dreams of yours. So before I joined the startup in 2015, we said in 2021, in July, we're going on this world trip. Come whatever may. What came was COVID. And like we still did it. Like we did not change anything about that because we thought like COVID is also not going to go away. And like it's not going to stop us. We're going to do that. And when we went into the planning process of this world trip, we realized that we don't want to be constrained as to how long we do this. Of course, money is going to be a constraint, but a manageable one. And then we also, when we do this and when we want to resume work, we don't want to be constrained by going to some certain place to do this or not being able to go somewhere else anymore again. So we really enjoyed our time where we had our beautiful apartment and everything. But then when we were planning it and thinking about it, we didn't want to have any of those constraints. And this is why we thought about how do we do this? And this is how we came up with it, basically. So
you actually traveled during COVID.
Absolutely. Yes.
So during the second or third wave, I don't even remember.
I don't know either. I have no idea which wave it was. It also depends on the country. Sometimes there are no waves at all if you are in certain countries.
Yeah. Can you share something like, did they have any like measures against?
Yes, absolutely. And
I mean, the Central Asia part when you started.
It really varies in certain degrees. Like in Georgia, it was really like, yeah, could wear a mask, could also not. Then in Central Asia, it was so and so. I think what they were very strict about is the regulations they put in place for entering the country. For example, when we landed in Almaty coming from Tbilisi, they would check our PCR test result at the stairs on the plane. So they wouldn't even let us leave the plane if that was not saying negative PCR test. But then when we were in Almaty, it was like, yeah, you can put on your mask, but also if you don't, I will not bother. It was really like so and so. Yeah.
Thank you. And last question. Why should I start living this way tomorrow?
Why should you do this? Yes. So I think, and this is really just my personal assessment, what my wife and I really enjoy most doing, and we are really certain of that, is traveling and experiencing the world and tasting the different foods and meeting all the people and the different cultures. And we really love this so much, but we also really enjoy working. It's not like if you take work away from me completely, I also won't be happy. I really felt that after a couple of months, like I enjoyed our world trip so much, but I really felt like I want to work on something again. So if you see that that you can combine these two things, then I think it's 100% for you, because right now I wouldn't want to change anything about that. It is exactly what I want to do. And I'm 100% happy doing that. And I don't think there is anything going to happen that will change that in the near future for me. So if you feel like that at all, if you're a travel enthusiast, then I think this is why you should start doing this from tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Thank you really for these inspiring stories, Cordt. I hope that more people will start, I don't know, at least living this way from next month, not tomorrow. And I think our talk is coming to an end. Thank you very much for attending. And I hope you've enjoyed this talk and you got some inspired stories from it. Once again, thank you, Cordt, for being here in Sofia in your super tight schedule that we meet you in person for our event and enjoy your stay here in Sofia with your wife. For those of you who are interested to get more information about the Freelance Academy or our upcoming events, you can follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn. And thank you very much again.
Yes, thank you very much. It was my pleasure being here. Really enjoyed this and hope to be there sometime again in the future.
It was my pleasure too. Thank you.